The year is passing by pretty quickly. Every second person I speak to will be saying something like, "It's March already. Can you believe it? It felt like we just had Christmas, and Christmas will be here again before we know it." It does feel like it's passing very quickly. I know myself that, coming back to work mid-January, it just feels like it hasn't stopped. It's just been continuous, and it's not only in the workspace that it feels like it's going fast. It's everything, and so we've only got so much time, so many hours in the day to do things. And of course, when we feel like time is going very quickly, and especially when we are really busy, it can have an impact. And a lot of people are saying, they're just under the pump. There's so much happening, so much they've got to get done. And when we're in that space of, we're busy, we are under the pump, there's a lot of pressure. We can feel a lot of stress. And of course, as that just keeps piling up on top of one another, depending on how well we may be looking after ourselves, that may come to a point where how people are seeing us, the perception they have of us, is impacted, because we're coming from the limbic part of our brain, the old fight or flight or freeze. And that's not always a good space to be in, even though, we're operating out of there majority of our time. But when it starts to impact our interactions with others and how people perceive us, it's not always a good thing. And that's it. Our actions may not be our best. They may not be what we really want them to be. And of course, that's going to have consequences. And some of those consequences are that our decision making is going to be impacted as well. We might be going for the quickest thing we can go for, because that's just where our brain's taking us, because it's worked for us before. Let's just do that. It's fast, it's quick, it's done, right? But that doesn't always have a great outcome in the end. And I think about it from the perspective of, we're not all on the world stage. We're not all in the news with this sort of stuff happening. And of course, we have this 24-hour news cycle that just keeps pumping stuff out, whether it's accurate or not. Who knows? And I've just finished reading the biography of Kerry O'Brien. You might remember Kerry O'Brien from Four Corners, Lateline. And he was in journalism for around 50 years. So journalism is not what it was when he started. They would have time to, develop stories and bring something to the community, to viewers. Whereas now, there could be a story being pumped out, every half an hour, if not less, with added, additions to whatever the story may be. And, even that has an impact on perceptions. And in all of this, obviously, is that commodity of time. And it's a valuable commodity. It also can be an expensive one, especially when our decisions aren't the best and how we're impacting on others isn't the best. And, we really, I suppose the onus is on us to really use our time well. Even if we are under pressure and under the pump, taking that time to just slow down and think about things before we act. Easier said than done, I know. And, I start to think about those who have been, especially those in the public domain, who have, maybe have some sort of scandal or something go horrifically wrong. Yet time can be, I don't want to say healer, but time can be utilised to turn people's perceptions of you around. Some of those that I've thought about, like in the sporting area, people like Steve Smith, and Warner in cricket. You know, they had the scandal, that's the Sandpaper Gate. That's what it was, the Sandpaper Gate. Scandal, accused of cheating, losing the captaincy, losing leadership roles, banned for a certain period of time. Yet somehow, you look at Warner and, he's gone into, going into retirement or semi-retirement, whatever it is, and yet he's being lauded at the end. It just took time to change that perception for people to, I guess, accept him again in a way. Although then I look at someone like Wayne Carey, who had a major scandal. Was that the early 2000s? There's a scandal when he was leaving North Melbourne. Yet he got back into commentating, and he was standing there like a doyen of the AFL, and people were fine to have him there. I wasn't, but he was accepted back into the fold, although I think he's a little bit back on the outside again. And you even think about others in business. There were people like, Colonel Sanders. It took him decades to, have KFC be, the business, success that it is now. Phil Knight from Nike, he took a long time, different ways of doing things. People would have had a perception of him of, gee, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Who would say anything now? Same with Oprah Winfrey, fired from her first job as an anchor. So she just stood right back up, and look where she is now. So there's that whole way of, people would have had perceptions about them. Even we've got local government elections this weekend, and there's people coming back who have run before, sat on councils before. People would have different perceptions about them, even those who may have never been successful, but they still keep stepping up to get up there. What have they got to do to change the perception of people so that they will vote for them or vote them back in again? And I think too, like I said, especially for those of us who, are really feeling under the pump, I think it also comes back to, what are we doing to take care of ourselves so that even though we've got these pressures on us, we're still able to present and not impact the perceptions of others around us. And so maybe, that is a question there in that as well, because time can change things. It could be this much time, or it could be this much time. What do you need to do to, take some time to refresh, even rebrand, and reset yourself so that when things are really, stressful, the pressure's on, how can I try and maintain, or how will I maintain myself so that the perceptions of others aren't impacted, that they're still seeing the person I want them to see.